Good evening. My name is Thelonious Williams, and I am Program Coordinator of the Salisbury-Wycomico Youth Civics Council. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce all the notable guests who will be speaking this evening and those who have made this event and the state of our city possible. I just want to begin by saying I've had the pleasure of working with the dynamic duo that sits right here, Council President Jake Day and the laughing Mayor James P. Ireton. I've worked with them, I've worked under them, I've been involved in the city for a number of years in different capacities, and it's been a real pleasure to be able to work with them in these ways. They've been mentors to me, they've advised me along with numerous city employees here today, and now I can only hope that the mentoring that they've done for me, I can now pass on to the very young and proud members of the Salisbury-Wycomico Youth Civics Council. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Martin Perenboom, Dean of the Fulton School, to bring the university's greetings.
Thank you, Theo, and good evening. On behalf of Salisbury University, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome you to tonight's event and to say how happy we are to make this beautiful room in this historic setting, the setting for a real celebration tonight of what we've accomplished in Salisbury over the past year. And I say we because I think Salisbury University and the people who make up the Salisbury University, whether it's the senior folks like myself who's lived in Salisbury for the last 20 years or somebody like Theo who is a Salisbury native, I believe. He is, and a citizen of the world. I think I last saw Theo in Ghana about a year and a half ago. In other words, students are a tremendous resource for this town, and not just because they represent the youthful enthusiasm that really energizes a city and moves it forward, but because they also have the opportunity in a community like ours to learn so much from what's going on around them, to participate in those activities, to engage civically. As the Dean of the School of Liberal Arts, I'm also the overseer of our Institute for Public Affairs and Civic Engagement. I'd like to shout out to Robbie Sheehan, who is the managing director, the interim managing director. Although, as I often say, I'd be happy to remove that interim any time, but we have to all in good time. So we're very, very excited about being a strong partner in Salisbury's progress. Again, the human resources, I think, are enormously invaluable and probably the biggest thing. But we're also so excited about under the red stripe there, that looks like downtown to me, and really making downtown a place where we can once again gather as a community to enjoy public space together, to come out of our private spaces and to interact with one another and to make this community a better place. So there's so much going on in Salisbury. We're so excited and so pleased to be a partner in that progress, thanks to the efforts of our mayor, our city council president, and a progressive city council. So with that, welcome and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Dean Perenboom. I'd now like to welcome Elder Derek Weaver of Remedy Church to give the city's invocation.
Good evening. Let's pray. God, thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight to celebrate the good in our city and to look expectantly to the good you will bring in the future. We ask that you will give Mayor Ireton, our city council, and the city administration the wisdom and resources they need to lead us into the future of 2015. We recognize that you are the one who brings about good in our city, and we ask that 2015 would be a year of prosperity for our community. Thank you for providing protection and growth for our city through our elected officials, city administration, first responders, and the police department. Teach us what it means to cultivate love and to engage the broken places in our city. Unite our leaders, business owners, educators, clergy, emergency responders, farmers, police force, and citizens together to strive towards the good of all. Lead us to celebrate the triumphant moments as a city and to grieve with hope together during the moments of brokenness. May we learn to love one another as we learn to love ourselves. May your love be evident through our words and deeds. May we be your agents of hope. May our individual stories be a reflection of your compassion. We ask all this in your name, Almighty God. Amen.
Thank you, Elder Weaver. I'd now like to take a moment on behalf of the city to acknowledge some of the guests that are here tonight. If you please stand and wave when your name is called. Mr. Jack Heath of the Salisbury City Council, if you please stand. And Mr. Reverend Harvey Dixon of the Faith Community Church, if you please stand. And furthermore, on behalf of the mayor, we would like to thank the following people. SU's President Janet Dudley Eshbaugh and the Salisbury University community for hosting the State of the City again. Ms. Gina Bubar, Mr. Robbie Sheehan, Mr. Tom Stevensons, Cheryl McBride, Donna Hagg, all the City of Salisbury department heads, Mr. Ireton's family, and most importantly, the citizens of this Salisbury for the opportunity to bring this State of the City to the public this evening. I would now like to take this moment to acquaint you with City Council President Jake Day. Jake Day is president of the Salisbury City Council. He was elected at the age of 30 with 72% of the vote and was unanimously elected president on a platform of placemaking, positivity, and high-quality economic development. Before that, he served as the founding director of the Center for Towns, a community design and engagement program serving the towns of the Eastern Shore. Jake has served as a national president of the American Institute for Architect Students and editor-in-chief of CRIT, a journal of architecture. A Richard Upjohn Fellow, he served on the American Institute of Architects National Board of Directors. Jake earned a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Maryland, a master's degree in urban design from Carnegie Mellon University, and an environmental policy master's from Oxford University. In Salisbury, Jake has served as a planning commissioner, member of the Board of Housing Appeals, and the Natural Resources Conservation Advisory Committee. Jake is also a first lieutenant cavalry officer in the Army, currently serving as a TAC officer at the Officer Candidate School, 7th Regiment, Army National Guard. He is a graduate of Maneuver Captain's Career Course, Armor Basic Officer Leaders Course, and Pre-Ranger Program, Platoon Trainer Qualification Course, Tactical Certification Course, Officer Candidate School, and basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Jake has also served as a platoon leader and an executive officer in the 158th Cavalry Regiment as an aide de camp to Brigadier General Peter Haynes. Jake has been honored as a 2015 Maryland Fellow, a 2013 Next American Vanguard Fellow, recipient of the 2012 Maryland Substantial Growth Award for Leadership and Service, Strong Communities Competition National Semifinalist, Heart of the Chesapeake Outstanding Project Award, Urban Land Institute Urban Design. Is there anything you haven't done, Jake? Competition Honorable Mention, and has been featured at the International Society of City and Regional Planners Conference in Belgium. Jake is also an advisory member of the Smart Growth America Local Leaders Council and has been featured in the book, Becoming an Architect. But most importantly, Jake is the devout husband of Liz, a Wicomico County teacher, coach, and trainer, and his biggest fan. Luckily, they are expecting to grow their little family this August. And with that, I would like to have City Council President Jake Day come up to the podium.
Thanks, Theo. Next time I'm going to make sure you only read like a third of that. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Mayor Ireton. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to stand here this evening. I also want to say, and this I think sets the tone for the evening, that Elder Weaver, Derek Weaver, is also the executive director of We Heart SBY, which is an organization, a volunteer organization, but an organization that I think in its name says exactly what we're trying to accomplish in this community, is love Salisbury. And we are trying to love this community better than it's ever been loved before and more than it's ever been loved before. So it is my honor to again stand before you with Mayor Ireton and to talk about what has been accomplished in the past 2 years. 2 years ago, I stood before you and asked for a chance to show you that we could reintroduce sensibility and partnership to the city council chambers. 2 years ago, I stood before you and asked for the chance to show you that we could reintroduce vision and leadership to city government and restore pride to our city. A year ago, I stood before you with the mayor and told you that we would say yes to our fire chief, yes to fireworks once again in Salisbury, and yes to revitalizing our firehouse. And I'm proud to say that we did all three of those things. A year ago, I stood before you with the mayor and told you about our progress, and tonight I'm eager for you to hear about our continued progress. All of these efforts are to create the breathing room for the most important endeavor and the most important practice, which is to create prosperity in our city and to put this city on the path to prosperity. And I say we, not only referring to Mayor Ireton and I, but also referring to each and every council member, and in particular, Mr. Jack Heath, a council member who has joined our team since the last State of the City address. But also to our 400 employees, some of whom are in the room tonight, and to our nearly 33,000 citizens in Salisbury, and the nearly 396,000 citizens in the Salisbury metropolitan area. We have a fantastic team. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to be in service to the community, and I'm proud to have the opportunity to be a part of this community. Like I tell the members of the Youth Civics Council, Theo, you only get one hometown, and you better take care of it. So with that being said, and I know this has been brief, like you only get one hometown, you only get one family. And my father happens to be giving an address across town tonight at the Chamber's annual dinner, so I better get there before I get in trouble. So with that being said, Mayor, fellow council members, Mr. Heath, city leaders, citizens, thank you again for the opportunity to serve, the opportunity to lead. You're going to get a great presentation tonight. I'm incredibly excited about the successes that Mayor Ireton's going to talk about and to have been a part of them, so I humbly thank you again and say enjoy your evening.
Thank you again, City Council President. And before we enter into the state of the city, I would like to say a few words, and I promise a few, about Mayor James P. Ireton. Born in Salisbury, Ireton, James Ireton recently turned 45 and serves as the city's 26th... serves as the city's... He put that in there, too. Serves as the city's 26th mayor. Ireton received a Bachelor's of Science in Education from Salisbury University in 1992. He went on to receive a Master's of the Arts in Education from the College of Notre Dame of Maryland. He served as president of the College of Notre Dame's Educational Honor Society, Kappa Delta Pi, from 2003 to 2006. Ireton cites Salisbury's Safe Streets initiative and the use of data to empower neighbors and law enforcement, leading to a 50% reduction in violent crimes in Salisbury and the lowest Part 1 crimes in the city in over a decade. He is focused on the cleanup of the Wicomico River with his Wicomico River Project Initiative, whose goal is to make the river swimmable and fishable, and he supports sound planning that controls urban sprawl and makes urban areas sustainable. Mayor Ireton's commitment to redeveloping downtown Salisbury has been attributed to more people living, working, and shopping downtown than has been seen in 30 years. 2015 marks Ireton's 7th year of being mayor and his 23rd year as an educator. That's older than I am. Ireton has served the community in many ways, including being the first Wicomico County Neighborhood Congress Chairman, Johnson's Lake Neighborhood Association Treasurer, a board member of the Wicomico County Education Association, and a member of the Willards Elementary PTA. In April of 2010, Ireton was named a Public Policy Conflict Resolution Fellow from the University of Maryland School of Law. As mayor, he presently serves on the Legislative Committee for the Maryland State Education Association, the Wicomico County University of Maryland Extension Service Advisory Board, and he is currently the first vice president of the Maryland Mayors Association. Ireton also uses his role as educator with the Boy Scouts. For the past 2 years, he has taught Citizenship in the Nation classes at Eagle Scout College at Salisbury University. Jim is an avid reader, tennis player, volleyball player, and golfer, all of which he's actually very good at. His family lives in Salisbury, and his parents have retired to Ocean City. With that, I would like to welcome Mayor James P. Ireton.
Give a round of applause for Theo, please. It's really great to have. I see Donna smiling. It's pretty incredible to have Theo in the office, as we have had for the last couple years, and to have him living in our neighborhoods and riding his bike on our bike lanes to and from the office all during the snow. Theo did that, and I would constantly ask him if he wanted me to drive him. He'd like, no, Mayor. I couldn't get up the hill when we first put the bike lanes in at Waverly Drive. I have to go down and go Riverside and come back around the other way. So Theo, thank you so much for doing that. Let me just say, I left home at about 5:15 this evening, and I drove through my neighborhood, Johnson's Lake. I drove over to the west side, past Shaney's house, Councilwoman Shields' house. I came back up into the downtown, rode down the plaza, and then came up Camden Avenue and stopped by where my family lived when we first came to Salisbury in 1969, and then rode by the house that I grew up in on Pennsylvania Avenue, right down the street from where my niece Mary lives now with my great-nephew. In getting ready for this, I took a look at how many emails I had in my inbox and in my saved box, because we've had some controversy this week with emails and elected officials. And I counted them up as I went down over the last couple of years, 16,000 on that computer bill. I don't know if I'm hurting the server in any way, shape, or form. But it came up with about 16,000 emails. But what struck me is what it says at the bottom of an email when I send it out to residents in our community, or I send them to Tom, or I send them to Chief or any of the department heads that are here. And at the bottom of that email it says, doing what you sent me to City Hall to do. And I am blessed in this particular case for being unbought and unbossed, as the saying goes, and knowing exactly who put me into this office 6 years ago, and then again 2 years ago at re-election time. When I think of that slogan, as I begin the sixth state of the city, I can say to you this evening that our city is strong financially. It has a vital and vibrant downtown that is the core of our revitalization, and that our city over the past 6 years has moved from one that reacted to events that happened to us and has become proactive, far-reaching, and progressive, and in many ways an example for other municipalities across the state. Let me say thank you to everyone in my office, Donna, Sherelle, Tom, Chris, all of you. Thank you so much for making this possible. Dr. Paraboom, Theo, Derek Weaver, Dr. Janet Dudley Ashbach, Robbie, thank you so much for doing this again. Tom and Sherelle and Donna and Chris and I, no one will ever know the effort that it takes to get a mayor and 11 department heads ready for a State of the City presentation. And as I look out at the department heads all in my line here, it is like being at a staff meeting. And I do appreciate all of your patience throughout the years, those of you who have served the entire time I've here and the new ones who have come along. There will never be enough thanks for all of you in helping getting the job done that we're going to explain to our citizens on PAC 14 and those of you here tonight. To our City Council President, I know he had to go. I have to say a heartfelt thank you to him for the partnership that we began 2 years ago. I believe then and I believe now that elections matter, and Jake and I made our case for what had to be done and what had to be done right, and that Salisbury would move forward more quickly if our residents elected us. The State of the City tonight reflects much of that work and will lay out the course for our work in 2015. So with that being said, as we do every year, right at the beginning, we go through the lightning round, like on Jeopardy does the lightning round, don't they? And so we're going to start that real quick. Some of these things, what I wanted to do, they were so cool, I just wanted to say it, drop the microphone and say the State of the City is over, because so much has been said about some of these things. So Chris, if you're ready to go, the Cracker Barrel is coming to the center at Salisbury, and they have submitted permit applications and plans for construction this week. Drop the microphone and go. So Cracker Barrel is coming. But even better, $16 million in surplus, $8.7 million in our general fund, and $7.7 million in our water and sewer fund. That's the city surplus. That's the sound ground that our city stands on. A new fire station coming to Brown and Naylor Street, a summer groundbreaking. We've done one already with Chief Hoppus. That will be started in the summer and will be finished at about this time next year. And then this, the newest member of the Salisbury family joins the Salisbury Zoo. And if you're good people, you will wait till the end of this presentation to see an amazing set of pictures from that announcement. Let me also make this announcement this evening, making sure that we reverse the brain drain from Salisbury University that we've heard so much about. I can announce to you tonight that our friend Julia Glantz has been named the Assistant City Administrator for the City of Salisbury. She is a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management with a Political Science minor from Salisbury University in 2011, and a Master's of Arts in Conflict Analysis and Resolution in 2013. Julia is an urban pioneer and bought a condo on our plaza. She serves on our Historic District Commission, and on April the 6th, she will come to work for us in the City of Salisbury. Julia, if you'll stand up and be recognized, please. That's pretty cool, Julia. Can I just say, that's pretty cool. Moving on, what you heard earlier this year, the demolition of the Daily Times building will happen sometime this year when an RFP goes out from PRMC. With the help of the state of Maryland, we will tear down this building. From a historic standpoint, this is the Upton Street School and where we quartered Confederate soldiers during the Civil War. But this building will come down, and the hospital will expand across the street, hopefully with partners from SU and UMES. Again, making sure that we are making downtown really the place to be professionally, residentially, and for fun, if I might add. This is an incredible amount of work on behalf of Mr. Heath, Mr. Day, and the Salisbury City Council. As you know, Salisbury is 33,000 people. About 44% of our population are minorities. And for years, we were under a consent decree to make sure that we had minority representation. But along with the City Council, we took a very progressive step, and we created a proposed redistricting plan that is now in the courts for approval, and it creates the second minority-majority district in our city. And for the first time, we will go to city districts in our elections in November of this year. I am especially proud to be able to say that as a Caucasian white mayor, that I have made sure that the progressive parts of this city will be able to elect minorities to make sure that they will have a greater voice in our community and in our public discourse. And for that, I have to say thank you to Mom for raising me correctly. Thanks, Mom. Let's move on very quickly to the Salisbury Police Department and Chief Barbara Duncan. The Safe Streets, again, the Governor's Office of Crime Convention this year, $260,000, $1.5 million over the last 5 years. Our partners, the sheriff, the state's attorney, Poplar Hill pre-release, all of those people still at the table helping drive those crime rates down. So let's take a look at that. At the end of the year, 2014, we went up 0.2% with 6 more Part 1 crimes than we had in 2013. You can see, and we're going to move very quickly then. All right, that was last year. Let me tell you what's happening as of right now in the first 2 months of 2015. We are down by 26.4%. One of the papers in Ocean City did a story about how Ocean City's crime rate had gone down 1.2%. And I was like, wait, I got a better number for you. In the first 2 months of the year, Barbara Duncan and her officers, the 92 sworn officers and the 10 that will come to help join her with the work of Major Mindshine, 101 fewer Part 1 crimes in our city in the first 2 months, a 26.4% drop. But it gets even better, and we're going to have a conversation in just a couple minutes about the fear of being a victim of crime. But let's take a look at what the FBI says about Salisbury's crime numbers since 2004. You can see the drop right there to 2013. The violent crime rate is dropping, and it's dropping very quickly here in Salisbury. Let's take a look at the 10-year comparison. Now, I know you'll be able to look at these. I'm a teacher. You all know this. When you come to these things, you know I have these placards up here because I have to have them. If I had chalk and a chalkboard, I'd be using that too. But let's take a look at the 10-year comparison. If we take a look at comparing our city from 2014 to 2005, no negligible numbers available on homicide. Rape down 30%, robbery down 51%, aggravated assault down 31%, burglary down 39%, theft down 6%, motor vehicle theft down 42.3%, and then the arson number up 11%, which I can never understand. But if you take a look at those, if you take a look right there, at the end of 2014, 2,112 Part 1 crimes for a decrease over a 10-year period of 19.2%. Now, I could stop there, but we all know that we have to deal with what happens in the media and the online community to discuss that situation of the fear of being a victim of crime. But I'm going to go one better, and I'm going to show you the numbers from 20-year comparison, all the way back to 1994. If you take a look at that, Chris, am I okay to leave the podium? All right. If you take a look there, here's 2014. 33,000 people who live in Salisbury, 2,112 Part 1 crimes in our city. Let's go back to 1994, where only 21,000 people lived in Salisbury. Thank you, Jack Lennox, wherever you are for that number. 3,234 Part 1 crimes. 2013 and 2014 represent the two lowest numbers of Part 1 crimes in this city in the last 20 years, with a population that went from 21,000 to 33,000. So the discussion will be in 2015 between the chief and I, in all of our neighborhoods, with all of our communities, with all of our races and ethnicities. What is the situation that's happening in social media and online communities and in the mainstream media that says that everything around us is bad? Because we can point and say the difference between 2,112 and 3,234, which I guess I should have done, but I did not, is a very large number. So we must do a better job, and the chief and I are committed to that, to making sure our residents know that they are safer and realizing that the reason they will recognize that they're safer is to get out from in front of social media, out in front of their computers and their telephones, and get back to living with their neighbors in that sense of community, and you will realize that we are safer all the way through our city. Looking at that 10-year, all the way down, every one of them is down. Motor vehicle theft down 57 over 20 years. Theft down 8. Burglary down 41. Aggravated assault down 34%. Robbery down by half over 20 years. And rape down by 31%. And again, no negligible numbers on the homicide. Let me put it to you this way. Well, actually, I'll do that in just a second. Let's go on to the next one, Chris. We know with the situation across our country, which was inflamed even yesterday, with the issues of race and the police, that it is very important that we move our police agency into this century and recognize that everybody needs to see what everybody else is doing. And Police Chief Duncan is committed to making sure that we spend $140,000 to make sure that all of our uniformed officers that are on the street will have body cameras by June of this year. We also making sure that the police chief is able to do our job, because it's not just 33,000 people who live in Salisbury. It's the 140,000 people who come into our city every day that use our services and use the services of the police department. Last year, we made a historic, the biggest one-time hiring of police officers in our city's history, 10 new officers. The first group is in the police academy, and I can report to you this evening that that group is the most diverse group of police recruits that we have had in the history of our city, because that is what our citizens are demanding. Then let's go to this one. Inside the city limits of Salisbury, there has not been a murder in 29 months. On Only Road, there was a murder, and out on Patrick Avenue, there was a murder. Both of those are outside our city limits. They are in our Safe Streets zone. But let's just look at this number and think about what we see and hear on things like Wicomico First Alert and online. There has not been a murder inside our city limits in 29 months. Could you please, for just a split second, find it in your heart to give the men and women of the Salisbury Police Department a round of applause? Excuse me. There are 9 bottles of water underneath this table, so if anybody needs one, please feel free to come up and get one. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with all of them. Let's move on very quickly now to the Salisbury Fire Department under the leadership of an incredible chief, Chief Richard Hoppus. Again, we said that station number 2 at Brown and Naylor Street will come. And those of you, how old was that station, Chief? 1930. It will be replaced. And with the help of Debbie Stam and our community development department, we're going to, before this building is built, put new sidewalks along Brown and Naylor Street, along that old warehouse that's there where the Bennett High School class of 1974 did their floats, Mom. I know, because I was in the car when you went to pick them up. Across the street from there, what we will do, Chris, do we have a map on this one? We're going to make sure that we pave again, because we know that paving is something our citizens love. We're going to pave from Route 13 at Ponzetti's all the way to Church Street, and we're going to pave from track to track on Brown Street, making sure that S&W Auto Parts, where I have taken my car 6 times in the last year, is sort of repaid for all the work that they've done for me. But this will be an incredible addition to the east side of our family, to the Princeton Homes area where it meets Church Street neighborhood, all through that section. We're excited about that. Let me also say that we, even though it was a bit controversial, we make sure that all of our Safer Grant officers that we had through the Safer Grant last year were hired to part-time positions, and we made sure through the work of Chief Hoppus to hire 4 new firefighters, making sure that every time an apparatus goes out of the firehouse, that it is completely, Chief, what's the word here, fully staffed to make sure that we're providing the best possible services that we can for the people who live in our fire service district. Along with our neighborhood services and code compliance team, through our neighborhood service days, this is what the fire department did. Princeton Homes North, from Snow Hill Road to Lincoln Avenue, and then from Lincoln Avenue to College Avenue. I call it Princeton Homes North and Princeton Homes South. And then in the Delaware Avenue area, this is what our firefighters did. They installed 183 smoke detectors in places where there weren't any. And they also repaired or put batteries in 118 non-functioning smoke detectors. What does that tell you about the safety of the people who live in our residence, that that's what we had to do? But those firefighters were out there. Chief, you did it just the other day for Wilma Sue Piper, who lives on Shiloh Street, and she is greatly, greatly appreciative to have 5 uniformed men in her house for the first time since the 1970s. She'll get a good laugh out of that because she's watching on Pack 14. But there are serious things that happen. 3,095 fire calls for service has the fire trucks out of the firehouse, and 8,599 ambulance calls for service, EMS calls for service. Now, the next map that you're going to see discusses what we don't have from Wicomico County and what we must continue to work on in 2015. And that is a fair and equitable fire service agreement. Not for me, not a fair service for me, not a fair service for Chief Hoppus, but a fair service for the people who pay for the Salisbury Fire Department. Taking a look at the next map, you will see we have gone 69 days with absolutely no word whatsoever from Wicomico County in terms of sitting down to talk with us about our fire service agreement. So let's take a look at this map. It's kind of like Neapolitan ice cream, if you know what I'm talking about here. The pink and the brown represent the city of Salisbury and all of the area that we serve in Wicomico County in our fire service district. That is 65% of Wicomico County residents are served by Salisbury's fire service. If you watch what will happen with the map, if I think it's going to do, those are the people who pay for it. The city of Salisbury provides 65% of Wicomico County's fire service and only gets paid for approximately 25% of the cost. So the question begs, do I do what Mayor Martin did back in the 1980s and walk across the hallway to the county council and the county executive offices and say, I am now invoking the nuclear option. If you can't come up with an agreement, then I'm not letting our ambulances and our fire trucks outside of city limits. Because the people who elected me to office are paying for that service for thousands and thousands of people who aren't paying for it at all. And in this day of fiscal responsibility, that's simply not fair. So in 2015, I have high hopes that Wicomico County Executive Bob Culver and Wicomico County Council President John Cannon, sorry, I did the other twin, will be at the table working with us. But if they are not, I will take every available opportunity to call them out for an inequity to taxpayers that they have created. Moving on, let's talk about downtown Salisbury. Can you just give downtown Salisbury a round of applause, because that's really where it's happening right now. Free Wi-Fi available, 3,248 unique users since we debuted, and a number of unique users per day is 48. We are on pace this year to exceed that. Young people downtown, online, that's the place where they want to be. $100,000 with the help of Debbie Stamm and the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development for structural exterior improvements. The Brickshire Condo Association, Echelon Restaurant, Chesapeake East, over on the other side of Main Street, on the west side, across from Brew River. DeVrico, $16,500 going to Headquarters Live. WMTD, and thank you, WMDT, and thank you, Kathleen McLean, for being here this evening. $18,650, and the Opportunity Shop, right at the end of the plaza, $18,800 to go towards making sure those properties continue to look historic, but are updated. We're very excited about that. So many things going on in downtown. Friday nights and Saturday nights. Concerts every Friday night and Saturday night. And 3 years ago, I sat here and told you that this station was still empty. But it is not. It is the cool place to be. Let me tell you, Headquarters Live is in excellent condition, under excellent hands. We were able to snag the gentleman who books all the acts for Dewey Beach venues to come to Salisbury, and he is bringing regional acts that we can see. The place is packed. We've had some celebrations there. Moving on, of course, the Brick Room right across the street from City Hall. You can see the Brick Room sign up there on the side of the bricks. Still don't know how they got that through the Historic District Commission, but they did. And there we are at that ribbon cutting. I am actually behind Chris Gilkerson right here. I'm the forehead that you see right there. I was there, I promise you. Let's also talk about the successes coming up now of First Saturday, and Sarah Rain and her committee bringing live acts every first Saturday. So now we're going to have Third Friday and First Saturday, bringing more and more people downtown. Sarah, your effort, your husband's effort, being a part of your effort as a Herculean effort. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I understand that. An incredible thing that's happening. The trolley that's now our circulator running through town, 1,525 people with the help of Shore Transit, Robbie Sheehan from the university, Council President Day. That was a good day. We have some really great pictures of us on that trolley. 1,525 students being brought through the fall downtown to be a part of our downtown revitalization. And to Jamie Heater, the continued success of Third Friday. When it gets warm, there's not a spot on the plaza for us to be. And that's incredible because, as Mom will tell you, it was like that when we were little and could walk up the plaza and go into Woolworths and jump down the steps. And every time I'm in the gallery building, Mom, I jump down those steps and can hear you saying, don't jump down those steps. But we know this. We know this from the statistics that we have, that there are now more people living, more people working, more people shopping, more people eating, more people spending money in downtown Salisbury than in 30 years. And can you give all of those people that have been at the table with us a big round of applause for making that happen? Dad, this is for you. This is the Public Works section. And we have some incredible news. Right now alone, the city of Salisbury is involved in $95 million worth of construction and infrastructure projects. That's a pretty incredible thing to do, Mike Molds and Amanda, for what you do with your staff. Continuing on, we have embarked with the Maryland Department of the Environment to save the Market Street parking lot. That's how we got Rob to be a part of that. And what we're doing is making sure that that parking lot is not continuing to fall into the river. So $255,000 from DNR. Also, with the help of Public Works throughout the city last year, we fixed, turned on, got new 419 streetlights with the help of Delmarva Power, and we continue to do that effort every day of the week. The Circle Avenue Bridge, this is my favorite slide of all. We fixed the sidewalk, we fixed the bulkhead, and we did the paving. And when the city council president went across that bridge, he texted me, "Have you been across the Circle Avenue Bridge yet? Construction is done." And he wrote, "Changed my life," is what he wrote. Because if anybody remembers the Circle Street Bridge, when you went over it, you went down there at the other side of it. It was pretty crazy. But there's Jake and Liz. This is my favorite slide of the evening. On behalf of our water department, and we will conduct a huge survey over the summer for where we get our water, but we collected, fluoridated, and got over 2 billion gallons of water to our residents and to our commercial end users. It's a pretty exciting thing. Where that water comes from, most of it comes from the Paleo Channel that is underneath the ground, the underground river that runs from Dorchester County into North Salisbury. And I can say to you this year we will start with the Wicomico River Project Group a thorough study of the Paleo Channel and what we can do to preserve it. A pretty incredible thing when you think about people across the nation who are fighting over water nowadays in the West. But again, our kudos, Mike, to the water department and everything that they do. We turn it on and we don't think anything about it, but it has to get there somewhere. 2 billion gallons of water, my friends. The wastewater treatment plant saga has now come to the end. Our last lawsuit netted us another $2 million, bringing our total to $13 million collected. The new plant was advertised for construction, and those bids opened today. So, Mike, if you'll stay after so we can talk about that and see what we got. Completion is expected in 2017. And let me say this even about the plant that we have now. The discharge and the effluent that is going into the Wicomico River is the cleanest that has ever been in our history. We will work with MDE as we upgrade this plant to go to 8.7 million gallons every day, and that will change what is expected of us. But right now, our nitrogen, our phosphorus levels, they are the lowest that they have ever been in our history. And I am very, very proud to say that the Creek Watchers have said that even though it rained so much last year, the studies that they have done show that the health of the Wicomico River continues to improve. Swimmable and fishable is not yet there, but we continue to work with that every day. As a kid that jumped into that river at every given chance he could, or followed the dog into the river, as Mom will tell you, and had to bring that dog home. We are working to get to that point, and we'll do that with the help of our partners, both at the state, both in Public Works, and those who serve on the Wicomico River Project. The Main Street Master Plan continues. We're on its way. 95% design plans are to be submitted by summer of 2015, and construction begins in October of 2015. Let me also say that with those $95 million worth of projects, one of those is finally, for our residents who live on the west side, the fixing of the Cody Cox Branch flooding issues that will finally come, and the paving that will go up Delaware and all the way down Isabella to Route 50. The Fitzwater pump station on Fitzwater Street will also be redone, and paving will be done there. We're hoping to get some bike lanes in there. And then the Hampshire Road pump station. If you go to the back way to the Walmart, you know when you get to that corner where it looks like there's Nebraska's out on the left and the Walmart's over here on the right, you know that it's in desperate need of paving. So I managed to get my paving money when we decided to use some of those wastewater treatment plant proceeds to redo the Hampshire Road pump station. The Cody Cox, Fitzwater pump station, Hampshire Road pump station are job-creating projects because they will help the engineers and all of and Laura Mitchell's not here to talk about those outliers, the jobs that they will create and keep businesses, engineer firms throughout the region, keeping people at work. And I'm proud to say that we, after the stimulus projects where we took a couple years back $7.7 million, I'm proud to say that I believe what President Obama says, that infrastructure projects across our nation are needed and they are job creators. Let me also say this. There it is, South Boulevard. Those of you who drove on it before it was paved, it was the third world, but here it is. It has been paved. It's not written paving, although we were thinking about putting that on there. Last year, we did $907,000 worth of residential paving, and this year in our capital improvement plan, which will go, Mr. Heath, to you all, I think next week, we are scheduled to do another $1 million worth of paving. Pretty incredible because we forget, people don't necessarily know that the water's there, they don't necessarily know when they flush the toilet, we're kind of responsible for that, but by golly, they know when their street is paved. And they are happy. So much so that we had to put those signs up on Middle Boulevard that said, drive like your kids live here, just to slow people down. So I'm very happy that Camden Avenue was done a couple years ago, North Division Street. We will now pave in every sector of our city next year, and that is something that our residents do appreciate. Moving on to neighborhood services and code compliance. Like I said, we did 3 combined service weeks for our residents, Princeton Homes North, Princeton Homes South, and Delaware Avenue to 5 points at the Cody Cox branch. You can see that, there's Bull, look. Those of you who are downtown know that that's our downtown beat cop, Bull. Aaron, is that Bull's real name? Yeah, I don't even know Bull's last name, but I had Hudson, there we go, thanks Chief. There with our Assistant Director of Neighborhood Services. This is what we found in those 3 things. We did 156 violations for tall grass, 356 violations for rubbish, 11 new vacant buildings identified, and we know through Kelling's fixing broken windows theory that these are the things that draw crime into our city limits. The number of, I love this one, the number of abandoned or inoperable vehicles over those three things, 66. And that's really telling because in Kelling's book, Fixing Broken Windows, it starts with leaving an abandoned car on a street to find out exactly what will happen in that area. So I'm glad those are off. Exterior violations, 229. So again, Susan, you and your staff, an incredible job. 8,710 property maintenance violations. And let me say this to you, a 94% compliance rate, meaning when we wrote the property up, it got fixed. And the other 6%, when they didn't and we took them to court, we won each and every time. 2014 represented our first receivership house. We took this from Baltimore City Code and got the city council to pass receivership. Those of you who have ever gone to North Salisbury School know that this house has been sitting there abandoned for years. No one showed up at court, and the judge gave it to us, and Susan is now the receiver of that house, and she will be working with one of our partners, SNHS or Habitat or one of our developers, to bring that house back into home ownership, which will be an incredible, incredible thing to happen at that corner with all of the thousands of people that go past that corner to and from Emerson Avenue, the north end of town, and the north end of our neighborhoods, and North Salisbury School. We now, in 2015, just to give you an update now, we have 6 more houses that will go in front of judges. Those are houses that have just been left. And they are one particular house, I'll just tell you, on my street, has been left for 7 years. 15 minutes before the judge was going to give that house to us, out of nowhere, someone showed up. A lawyer showed up for the bank, and the judge had to give the house back to them. That house still sits empty. And I say to the Marinos on Philadelphia Avenue who are watching tonight that Susan Phillips and I are on that house every single solitary day. The biggest thing that's happened, though, in the last year and now into 2015 is the issue of over-occupancies in our city. The city council just the other night, Jack, second reading already, or is that first? Second reading. Thank you so much, Jack. The over-occupancy legislation, and I'm just going to read it to you. This legislation will directly link any violation of the occupancy provisions as referred to in the Property Maintenance Code to the housing official's authority to deny, revoke, suspend, or not renew that landlord's license. Lost my place. This new risk of forfeiture, coupled with the current authorization to issue a municipal fine of up to $500 for each day the violation exists and the possibility of condemnation as an unlawful structure, will significantly bolster the city's ability to combat the growing number of over-occupancy violations and should substantially disincentivize those violations. What does that mean? 6 years ago, I stood in front of you and I said to the voters of Salisbury that no longer will the city of Salisbury get in between the relationship between landlord and renter. If the property isn't being used right, then it's somebody's fault, but it's not ours, and you will be held accountable. Finally, with the help of a city council, a progressive city council, we are making the steps. These steps will be copied by municipalities throughout the state of Maryland. When I say that we are leading, we are leading. Now let me show you what else we're doing to lead, and something that's going to happen all across Maryland. Are you ready for it? This is a QR code for those of you who shop in the Land's End catalog. And this is what's going to happen. You're driving down Middle Boulevard, and there that house has been sitting vacant for, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years. And this is what happens, because actually it's, Mike, did you bring the sign for the sign for the highway as well? Oh, you have it. That's the best. This is what happens. Mom rides down Middle Boulevard on her way to Mary's house, and she gets to the corner of Middle Boulevard and Smith Street. And there that house sits with grass this tall and stuff falling off of it. You know what Mom's first words are? Who's the mayor of this city? And that happens everywhere we go. So now, because of Bill Garrett and the technology guru, and Susan Phillips, who wants us to be able to show our citizens what we do, you'll be able to take that QR code in front of any house that's abandoned, and you'll be able to do this. Watch the screen. Boom. There it is. Those are all the violations that the city has wrote it up for. This is who owns it now. This is who owned it then. This is the bank to call. And if you're sick of this, call these people, because it's these people who are leaving that house sitting on that street, dropping everybody's property values. I am tired of being the one that is responsible for other people's dropping the ball. So what I'm going to be able to do is be able to give our citizens the technology to say, there it is, 301 Middle Boulevard. Call this number if you're tired of these situations happening in Salisbury. It is very important that we use technology to empower people to change the way that they live their everyday lives. And with the help of Bill and with Susan, that is what that QR code will do. Unless you hit it and the slippers come up that you're buying for somebody for Christmas or something like that. But that will be on every house. And that is not too much of a significant cost for, but we will laminate them and we will put it right front and center so you can ride by and go, this is the bank, these are the people, these are the ones who are destroying our property values. Because the city of Salisbury, my friends, is doing absolutely everything we could possibly do to make our neighborhoods better. So I'm really excited about that. Susan, Bill, I can't tell you enough how cool I think that is. Because I do it. There's a better one. I wasn't going to show you this one, but anybody drive down Route 13 right towards the college anytime in the last 5 months? Yeah, you know what it looks like, right? You know what it feels like. Don't try and go into the Phillips Cleaners or go get a shrimp box at Popeyes because you can knock your car out of alignment. Or how about those people who live in Newtown? West, which street is that? It's, what is it? East and West William Street, still sitting there, waiting for years for something to be done. So we have this new handy dandy sign, Tom, if you'll hold it up. If it's the State Highway Administration, Jim Ireton's tired of people calling my office and going, what are you doing about it? If you don't like the condition of this road, call the governor, call the highway secretary, or call the State Highway Administration, because those are the people who need to get this job done, not me. We had a little bit of consternation with which finger we were pointing down at the road, but it was, I've walked off camera, Chris. I'm sorry. I apologize. I love that sign. Because, you know, you go to Vinnie's, or you try and get into the Dunkin' Donuts, or you try and get into Phillips's, or you try and get into Delaware Tire, and it is third world, is what it is. And it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed quickly. And these are the things that we have to do to make sure that our partners at the state level know that we're watching and we're paying attention. Because personally, I am tired of getting the calls for something I'm not responsible for, but I can't seem to get their attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you get their attention. So I'd appreciate it if you'd use those numbers. All right. We now start to wrap up the state of the city. Let's do this one. Keith Cordry and all the people who work in internal services. Once again, the city continued to get the audit work completed sooner than any other previous year. A promise I made to you 6 years ago. In the past 5 years, we have been able to expedite this completion of this fiscal document by 2 full months, which I know doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars and auditors, this is a pretty incredible thing. It is very difficult because when we go back to those numbers of surplus, $16 million worth, we really don't know that number until 6 months after the fiscal year closes. And the only way that we get that number sooner so we know what our fiscal condition is to make sure we're working with Barbicane Thornton and our auditors. And every year we have gotten it done a week sooner, a couple days sooner. I think this year it was 1 day sooner than last year. But it does show progress, and it does show the leadership that Keith and all the number crunchers and accountants that we have downstairs are doing their job. So Keith, let me say I appreciate that. Celebrating diversity in our city. There's a really good-looking picture of me from a couple years ago. Celebrating Pride Night downtown. We will continue to do that. I will DJ again on April the 1st if you want to come out to the Brick Room and listen to some decent dance music that you haven't heard in the city since my sisters were going out in the 1980s. We'll be happy to see you at the Brick Room on April the 1st. But Pride Night, celebrating our diverse community, the LGBT community in our city, is very important to downtown revitalization. And I'm very, very proud to be able to say that because of the way that I was raised, making sure that we are progressive is exactly what we're doing right now in Salisbury. Again, the holiday tree lighting was huge this year, and New Year's Eve. It's going to be a little different this year. We're working on RFPs. We have really, Jamie Heater and Joey Gilkerson, we have really run them out of gas with what we're doing here. So we're looking at a parking lot number 1 event and hopefully dropping that ball off the parking garage. So we're excited that we are on our way to, and there's actually Steve DiCarlo. There's your pictures right there. There we go. There's Jake and I. I said to Jake just seconds before, after this, he keeps turning around and looking. I was like, Jake, what are you looking at? There's nothing behind you. He goes, you're on the screen. There's this huge screen there. You can see the streamers. You can see the bands. There it is from atop. Where were you? On top of One Plaza East? Pictures with you with your feet hanging over the edge. Yeah, I was like, that'll be a great liability there. but it was a great picture. Thanks so much for that. Again, we're going to continue to work on with our state delegates and property tax fairness for Salisbury. Salisbury is one of 3 jurisdictions on the Eastern Shore that does not have a tax differential. Our residents pay double taxes, and to the tune every year about $1 million worth of taxes that we pay for services that we don't get from Wicomico County. There are 900,000 Marylanders that have this situation, and we are working very hard in the legislature to make sure that tax fairness comes to us. I will just say this. You can't just be from one party and talk about reducing taxes. And that's where I am right now with thinking that some of these people aren't taking us very seriously. And I want the media to know that yes, this is a Democrat talking about cutting taxes, and he's serious, and he's willing to go to court to bring them to the table to do it. Testifying in Annapolis, you'll see me there with Channel 47. You'll see me testifying with other mayors throughout the state of Maryland, the mayor of Frederick's there, the mayor of Chesapeake Beach, the mayor of Crisfield, Kim Lawson, is sitting beside me. The mayor of Kensington is sitting next to me, all of us saying that we need a fair and equitable treatment from the counties throughout the state of Maryland. So very happy to do that. It's a very interesting thing to go from a place where you're the mayor and you're the big cheese to going to Annapolis and walking in and somebody saying, have you signed in? Yes, you'll be able to speak for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Do you know how long it's been since I spoke for just 2 minutes? But we got it down. Chris helped me get it down to 2 minutes, and we really made an impact. That's the second time I've been in Annapolis. I testified on behalf of the flesh tax and was happy to do that because I recognize the amount of money that the state pays to try and clean up the Chesapeake Bay. And I will continue to go to Annapolis at every opportunity. I think I will be there next week testifying with Wicomico County teachers against cuts to the education budget in the state of Maryland. So it is an interesting thing for me, and Tom Stevenson will tell you I might be gone, but I'm not disconnected from everything that's happening here. And there will be hundreds of phone calls as I go across the bridge and come back home, making sure that everything is still safe and sound here in town. So what else we will do this year is take a review of all of the houses in our neighborhoods that were given exemptions to our 4 to 2 designation. There are over 400 houses throughout our neighborhoods that were allowed to go from 4 to 2 back to 4 to 3 and 4 to 4. And I can tell you that just like non-conforming uses and the issues that face Newtown, Alita, this is where our crime is. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at these because as I discovered with Susan Phillips the other day, there was a criteria that in 2006 that we went through to give these designations. But we only did them for the 300 some odd houses that got the 4 to 4 designation. I found out the other day that we didn't ask anything of the 110 houses that got the 4 to 3 designation. So I'm going back, and with the help of the chief of police and the help of data, we will prove that it is time to go before the city council and this year probably ask for a sunsetting and an amortizing of all of these houses to bring them all into compliance and 4 to 2 because saving our single-family neighborhoods is the single most important thing that we can do in Salisbury. So, now here we go. Are you ready for this? This is the moment you've all been waiting for. The newest member of the Salisbury Zoo will be introduced to you this evening and introduced to the public tomorrow. Let's do this first. Let's get the information out of the way before the alls and everybody stops paying attention to anything that I'm saying. Andean bears, one of which we have 2, Chaska was here, Poopsie was the one we had before who died. Andean bears give birth in secluded dens. They are very susceptible to disturbances that may cause them to abandon maternal care. Our female Chaska is young and inexperienced, making her even more susceptible to disturbance. Once zookeepers suspected that a birth had taken place, they minimized caretaking activity in that area, providing Chaska with complete seclusion. About 2 weeks ago, Chaska's behavior began to change, allowing keepers the opportunity to finally verify the presence of a cub. Ralph Pylan, the zoo director, became a father, and I became a grandfather. Since then, periodic observations, and Mom, you became a great-grandmother. Since then, periodic observations seem to indicate that Chaska is an attentive mother and the cub is developing normally. While we are proud of this success, one of only 3 Andean bear cubs born in North American zoos this year, we have waited until we have more complete and verifiable information before communicating broadly this birth. It is important to remember that it may be another 4 to 6 weeks before Chaska will allow this cub to leave the den and meet the Salisbury community. And with that, Chaska's cub. It is always made clear to me that the job that I have is the first line on my resume when I die. And it is never lost on me that the people who sent me here are the people who live in our neighborhoods, work in our neighborhoods, preach in our neighborhoods, have synagogues in our neighborhoods. And it is never lost on me that I serve with amazing people on the Salisbury City Council. I serve alongside John Hall, our representative on the county council. I serve with the men and women that I'm going to ask to stand in just a second for you to recognize for making it possible for me to come before you this evening and be able to give you the state of the city. I know it is not always pretty with me. I know that sometimes it seems a bit dramatic with me. But I can tell you this, there's not a night that I don't go to bed that the absolute first priority that I have in my mind is the citizens, their safety, their neighborhoods, their children who live here. The college students who go to school here, the people who come in here and start businesses, and the 150,000 people who come into our city every day. So with that, if you are a department head, please stand and be recognized by the public and by those watching on PAC 14. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, all of you, very much. I serve with you every day, and you get the phone calls, so you know. Bill. Let me say thank you again to my parents for being here, for my brother-in-law to being here. My sisters are all traveling this evening, and I'm the baby and the only boy, and they weren't going to stay home for this. But I just want you to know that it is the love of family and it is the love of friends that sustain me and keep me every day that I get to do this job. So I look forward to a prosperous 2015 working with Tom and with Julia hand in hand to make sure that Salisbury continues to be the best place to live on the Eastern Shore and the best place to live in Maryland. Thank you very much for being here, everyone. Are you going to roll that video again?